Okay, as I said in HeStream, I'm going to redo the videos talking about the future model railroad, now model railroads, plural. I went over what the big model railroad will be a while ago, but the video is a long time back. There's been a bunch of subscribers since then. People might not go back that far and see the video, and out of over 150 videos on the channel, not necessarily are people going to see that in their suggested, not necessarily going to scroll back through that many videos, so just re-go over it. The large model railroad is going to be the southern Norfolk, what is now the Norfolk Southern Tier line from Buffalo to Binghamton. The Rochester and Southern from Rochester to Silver Springs, and from Caledonia to Dansville, and the Livonia and Lakeville from Henrietta to Henrietta Chilai to Lakeville, with the what's left of the Livonia branch that went over to Livonia that serves the feed and a farm supply place, feed, fertilizer, that sort of stuff. Plus all connecting lines, so you'll have and this would be set in 1992 to 2009. Now, why did I choose this particular area to model? And I grew up here, and I'm 28. I was born in 1992, returning 29 this year. I grew up watching SD40-2s, SD70s, SD60s, SD60Ms, SD60Is, SD70Ms, Dash 8s, the Dash 9 top hats, those types of locomotives going through on road trains, plus the occasional Rio Grande or Southern Pacific ton motors. They would occasionally pop up here. Wisconsin Central SD45s would pop up here quite often. Canadian National had trackage rights through at the time, during that era. So did D&H. So that time period gets a lot of variety. You get stack trains that were a partnership between New York Susquehanna and Western, Delaware and Hudson, and Norfolk Southern, that would go from New Jersey and then NYSW up to Binghamton, get transferred over to D&H, would usually stay with New York Susquehanna and Western Dash 8s, go up to Buffalo, switch over to the Norfolk Southern on the old nickel plate, and then go on to, I believe it was Chicago. You have more Canadian Pacific trains at that time period. As in the later years, it went down to only 2. And then when NS bought the D&H not that long ago from Mechanicville to Philadelphia, those D&H trains ceased to exist because they didn't bridge over between the Canadian Pacific in Buffalo and the D&H in Binghamton. So during that time period, you get a lot of variety. A lot. I mean, there's practically every single locomotive model that you could think of came through here during that time period. And you got Conrail, Norfolk Southern, CN and CP trains on the Southern Tier line. Then you got Conrail, NS, and then Western New York, Pennsylvania on the old Erie from Hornell, which will be modeled as the interchange in Hornell. Then you have the Rochester and Southern which is Wyoming, which merged into Rochester and Southern in 2005, 2006. Livonia up in Lakeville taking over Conrail trackage in the 1990s. The Bath and Hammondsport taking over Conrail trackage at, I believe it was during the 1990s. You have the New York Susquehanna and Western. Plus, now all this creates a lot of traffic. But I love the steel industry, and I love grain. And I considered modeling an ethanol plant. There is none around here. I also wanted to model steel mill. Also, no full blast furnace steel mills around here. The one in Lackawanna closed down in the 1980s. It was not really that much open before then, so I couldn't model a steel mill. That brings along the freelance portion. It was going to be the top deck. It's now going to be the bottom deck, and that would be the Finger Lakes Northern, which is a freelance regional that started as a terminal railroad. Started as a terminal railroad in Victor, New York, serving a steel mill owned by all the eastern railroads that were in that area. Then, slowly as they merged off, they became being owned by private people and companies, so that no railroad had more control over it than another. And interchange with, as in time period through on, the O'Connell interchange with the Lehigh Valley, Erie, Lackawanna, then Erie, Lackawanna. Hang on. Daddy long leg come on. Tried to blow him off, but he went down. Yeah. Kind of New York Central, Pennsylvania Railroad, all the railroads in that area. And they each owned a part of it, and then as they merged together, New York Central and PRR, one of their shares had to be sold off to private people, and then same when DL&W and Erie merged. And that was added simply so I could add those industries that I wanted to model, but couldn't because they don't exist here. We have a brewery, but it's not rail served. There's a brewery in Rochester. It used to be rail served, but it's no longer rail served. So that brought a brewery and a steel mill. And the steel mill, I figured out, and that steel mill alone will handle over 1,000 cars a day, and that's not counting any other business on that string. So yeah, this railroad railroad is going to need a lot of rolling stock, which is a huge expense. It'll be very slow going because I do not make that much money. I am by far the poorest of everyone in the model railroading YouTube community. I only can spend about $1,000 a year on model railroad stuff, and that's if I scrimp and save and don't buy any extras other than model railroad stuff. So that's that. So that's what I'm modeling, what I'm going to be modeling, the one layout. The other layout is going to be the Warsaw Industrial Branch of the Buffalo, Rochester, and Pittsburgh, and then B&O, which came down from the hill in Warsaw this way, and then it reached the bottom and hit a switchback and went back this way to serve the industries, which included a freight house. There was a freight house on the hill also, but there was the one main one that I want to model. That's a daddy long leg on the screen. There, got him. There's a freight house, the elevator factory. There was a piano factory at one point. There was a lantern factory. there was a couple other industries. There was a lumber yard. I think maybe we had 2 lumber yards, but that layout is going to be set much earlier than the other one. It's going to be set at about 1920 to 1960, somewhere around there. So that's going to be predominantly steam power, while the big layout is going to be diesel with some excursion steam power. The Finger Lakes Northern is going to have its own steam shop and some steam locomotives that'll run excursions, because it's the Finger Lakes area. I mean, people love that area, and there would be very lucrative excursion business for if such a railroad existed. We won't discuss what residents of Victor, New York would say about a steel mill there. Steel mill in wine country, come on. I think that would kill the grapes. But the big layout will have coal, because it's got there's power plants that are close to it. Just off layout are coal going to power plants. There's at least one power plant on the layout I can think of. There might be 2. I think there's 2, because there's Corning, which was accepting coal at that point, and then there's Johnson City. There's a NYSEG plant. There's the one in Dresden, which is natural gas now, but it was coal until just a few years ago. That'll be off the layout. That one will be off the layout, but you'll have trains coming up to the branch and going off layout. Steel or limestone or lime, whatever. All sorts of steel products, salt, lumber, building products. Not so much passengers, excursion passengers, but not really passengers, because passenger service has not existed on the Southern Tier line since the bank was in 1955. So, yeah, a lot of different commodities moved, a lot of different types of cars needed, a lot of locomotives. I estimate that this layout is going to require about 500 locomotives minimum, and probably 100 times as many cars. Could get by with 20,000 cars, maybe. But it's going to take a lot of rolling stock, which is going to be a major investment for me. Hopefully this Friday I'll be getting to Dispatch Junction in Rochester and getting a bunch of rolling stock or track or something, a bunch of supplies. I'm not going to buy locomotives because I don't have any track to run them on, and I do not want to buy a locomotive that sit in the box for 2 years, for however long it's going to be, because you never know. I mean, the small layout's supposed to be built soon, and I could run things on that just to make sure they work properly, but I don't know how long it's going to be. I mean, it could be, the way things go, it could be, have gone so far in the last 2 years, it could be 5 years from now before I can even get started on that. All depends on what happens, especially with the price of lumber right now. I'm not buying lumber for more than it should be, because why spend money I don't have on something that will get cheaper eventually? And lumber prices will come down. They will come down. They don't receive lumber by rail here very often, and there were 2 cars of lumber up on the Silver Lake siding yesterday, which is in a video coming up. So they're shipping lumber more by rail, at least to here. That's something that hasn't happened in a long time. I can count on one hand the amount of lumber, actual lumber, center beam flat cars full of lumber I have seen interchanged through here in the last 10 years. That is how rare it is for lumber to come through. Utility poles, yes, we get them all the time. Yes, a lot of Rick Baileys. There's a lot of Rick Baileys around me too. And there's one right over there. There's one over there. There's one over there. There's one over there, there's one back there, there's one back there, there's one back there, there's one back there. There's more over there. There's one right here. You're not sitting on one. That's a different type of tree. Distant cousin. Anyway, that's the plan. That's what it's going to do. Want to contribute to either layout. In my about section, there are 2 links. One to the Model or Train stuff wish list, and one to the Yankee Dabbler wish list. Doesn't matter what you buy, however, I do ask that you not buy locomotives until I have working track, because I do not want to get a locomotive, even if it's something somebody else pays for. I do not want to get a locomotive and then discover when I open it up and try to run it that it doesn't work and it's out of warranty. That would suck. Big time. So cars, there's containers, there's track, there's scenic material. Want to buy something off the wish list? Go ahead. If you don't, that's fine, whatever. But that's the plan. This video has gone way too long, so I'll see you later.